touch of the blues and a whole lot of rock. Mix it all together, be the first on your block, and do the Carmine. Do the Carmine.
Welcome to Navtastic, podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I'm Mr. Fernandes, and...
Hey, I'm Chris Jayawardena. Hello.
And are you ready to get on the dance floor? Do you know all the dances? Well, here's one more. This is Do the Carmine, directed by Tom Trevich and written by Jay Grossman. I bet you Chris has some facts about Grossman coming up.
I do. I got it. Unfortunately, it's sad facts, but we'll get there.
Dear.
Yeah, it's a sad story. We'll get there. Yeah.
Sad facts are bad. That's too bad. This is a very interesting episode in that we are trying to launch a Carmine dance craze 8 seasons into the show. It's nearly at the tail end of the show, and it kind of feels like it's too late to kind of bolster this kind of pop phenomena for Party Mecca at this point. But hey, yeah, let's see how it rolls. Here's what the episode's about. Carmine has got a brand new record called Do the Hot Foot with Squiggy's new label, Squigtone Records and Tapes. They want to get some attention, and with Squiggy's finagling and an impromptu show that captures the ear of Bobby Bitts, king of the hits. And he pops into Cowboy Bills for a meal. Bobby is so impressed that Carmine finds himself re-recording Do the Hot Foot as Do the Carmine, and ends up on American Bandstand, American Dance Party. But as soon as shot at international fame is jeopardized by a busybody who thinks Carmine's selling sin instead of dance steps. Since this busybody happens to be a sponsor, that means Bobby, Carmine, and even Squiggy may be in hot water. Can Carmine's career be salvaged? Elsewhere, Laverne joins a local protest against the soon-to-be-built garbage dump but finds fair-weather friends at every turn. What do you think of this one?
I'm gonna repeat what I said before when we were watching this episode. Can we just go watch Hairspray again?
Oh, Hairspray. We could Madison until dawn.
So, this is another strange case of that. I was very concerned about them trying to do this as an episode to begin with when you first told me about it. Then I started to find out as I was watching it what more was going on in the background of the episode, and then was disappointed that it didn't pay off in ways that I thought would have been good. This is a frustrating flashback episode in the sense that, it's a period piece episode because it's trying to talk about the 60s counterculture and the rubbing up against the mainstream society and all of that. And it doesn't do it well, accurately, or have anything to say. And yet it's it's just kind of there.
Yeah. Yeah, the problem here is that we're trying to do an American Bandstand parody. We're trying to make a statement about the PMRC kind of stuff that's almost over on the horizon, which will be on the horizon in like a couple of years. And yet, we go toothless. We go completely toothless.
Yep.
The ultimate lesson here is that Carmine should be happy where he is. He shouldn't strive for greater things, which is really ironic considering the next episode.
Yeah.
And in fact, they absolutely should have used this episode as a springboard to move him into a spin-off. That is such a missed opportunity because you could have Do the Carmine be a nationwide hit, and he takes the money and moves with it to New York and tries to launch himself as a Broadway star with
Right.
it.
And basically finding out that one of the catches with show business, and this is true anywhere, is that if you're nobody in that town, no matter where you're a somebody, they don't care. They absolutely do not care. And so it's like, oh, you have this hit record? Yeah, but can you do stage? Oh, you've never been on stage before? You've never done that? Prove yourself, kid. That's the truth of it. And that would have been a really interesting thing to have, and also have made him an endearing character because we, the audience, know he can succeed. But now it's like he's got to prove himself again. Yeah.
And even though Carmine has been on the stage, he definitely has done musicals. He's auditioned for musicals before canonically. He's done some kind of stage work in I think in Milwaukee at some point. I think that was mentioned briefly. But in New York, he would be the completely unknown quantity.
Exactly.
He would absolutely have to go all the way back and start from scratch. And in a way, that's what they do in Hair Today. But on the other hand, this would have made such an easy bridge. It would have been such a simple, easy way to get him away from California. Instead, this episode just it's fun. The song is at least very catchy because it's been stuck in my head for the past week. And it could have gone and done interesting things with the character, and it just does not have the courage to do it.
Well, talking again about how you said it's toothless, bringing up Hairspray is partly fitting because, until you and I watched finally got me to watch Hairspray for the first time.
Yeah.
I did not realize that movie was about racism and was about confronting racism and inequality and all that, and realizing that John Waters was still being John Waters. He was being the counterculture guy on the fringe with his movie. And this is the kind of thing that they could have done aspects of Hairspray years before Hairspray, and they don't. Because, we're going to come up to it, is that it doesn't even take a moment to even stop and show how Bobby Bitts at the end folds and why he folds.
Yeah, exactly. He just kind of folds because it kind of sounds like a good idea, and this guy's holding his purse strings.
Right.
And it's kind of like a nothing moment, to a degree. It's just it could have been more. It could have been so much more, and it did not have the courage to do that. And then you have Laverne kind of dipping into hippie environmentalist ideas, and it ends up going nowhere. She ends up getting defeated. They end up building the dump anyway, and that kind of just the storyline goes nowhere. To be frank, we actually don't even know if they built the dump. Just know they got garbage dumped on top of them.
Which is pretty much confirmation that I think they failed, because one of coming from Portland, which we have been historically a protest city. The thing about doing protests, and when you do protests as a culture, one of the problems is that the real change that is going to take place doesn't really actually take place unless there's real serious push legislatively, or that you essentially threaten their financial side of things, because it's the remark about there's no you see them get calmly carried away from the sit-in, etc. It doesn't always work that way. 100% true, which I'm glad that they feature that line of dialogue. But as you're saying, like, it doesn't go anywhere because they don't even follow up in the next episode. And the next episode very much could have taken advantage of that. And
exactly.
And it doesn't. Actually, this is the last episode that I feel Laverne got to be a character in, to be quite frank.
Yeah. She's pretty much outside of the narrative in the next two episodes, and that's too bad. She just kind of exists on the fringe doing stuff.
Yep. Which, given what we know about what's happening behind the scenes, I completely understand. I understand why Penny was in that place.
Yeah, Penny wanted out. She was trying to get out.
And I totally understand why. Now that I know more of the season 8 story, now that we've gotten to this point in reviewing the episodes, completely get it. But it feels sad that they weren't even in this capacity, as you point out. This plot doesn't go anywhere, so we don't even get an interesting evolution of Laverne as a character, where this is not just about, I want to fight back against a minor inconvenience and take this thing too far. She's actually finding a cause to fight for. And that's something the cynic in her used to dissuade herself from doing.
Yeah, it wasn't into. That was a Shirley thing. That was something Shirley used to do. And instead, she's kind of stepping up and taking the Shirley role here. And the thing is that ultimately she does not care that they are building a dump. She just kind of brushes it off that they're building a dump down the street. She's going to still stink of garbage for an unknown amount of time. So it's like, yeesh. She just cares not. She just doesn't. They just didn't care. They just didn't care. So here comes Jay Leno, basically pretending to be Dick Clark.
Yes.
I did enjoy Squiggy being in agent mode, by the way. He's stumping really hard for Carmine here.
I did also like him referring to himself as Colonel Andrew Squigman. That's a nice little reference.
Yeah, that's a nice little Elvis reference. Squiggy, I think, in part, also wants to get his money back from all the money he put into getting this record recorded.
Oh, yeah.
And getting it pressed on an untold amount of records. So, yeah. I earned my 80%.
Yeah, my 80%. It's like it's 10%. Quibbles.
Quibbles. So good.
Yeah.
So good. Squigtone Records and Tapes was a nice little callback and reference. I really enjoyed that. I love Squiggy in this moment. I love him a lot.
Yeah, and then and the way David so perfectly delivers that line when he slips the record into the burger, and Jay Leno bites into it, and he goes, "Yeah, it's a rather tasty tune, isn't it?"
And all of a sudden, the Krupp family owns the Cowboy Bills chain. Wow. I don't know how to get away with that.
That's an interesting one. Yep.
Well, maybe there are two ways. Wow. Then that leads into the Fonzie reference that they get away with somehow. The kid they used to know named Arthur.
By the way, I actually had to Google the because I was like, this is super familiar.
Yeah.
Should we?
Yeah.
We should explain the Krupp family reference. Do you want to?
Yes,
do?
we should. Go. Yeah, they're basically big time evil Nazi manufacturers.
Right.
Remember the Krupp diamonds? Elizabeth Taylor eventually got that, and she was delighted because a nice Jewish girl was wearing the Krupp diamonds, because fuck them.
Because for folks that don't know, off of the Wikipedia page, during the time of the Third Reich, the Krupp company supported the Nazi regime and used slave labor, which was used by the Nazi party to help carry out the Holocaust, with Krupp reaping the economic benefit. They used almost 100,000 slave laborers housed in poor conditions, and many were worked to death.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And that was the joke that David went for. Wow. That's dark. That's big time dark.
Mm-hmm. They and anyone wondering is that, dear God, please tell me that company is no longer around. They're not. They closed in 1991. So.
Yeah, they lasted for too long.
The very fucking true. 1946, they should have been in the ground.
Yeah, they should have put a bullet in it. The fact that he tries to start the jukebox like Fonzie.
Yes.
And he says that it was it's so easy when that kid from Milwaukee they used to do it.
Yeah, and he asks Carmine, what was his name again? And Carmine actually has to think and go, Arthur. Arthur?
Yes. Yeah. Probably serving 5 to 10 years on a morals charge. How did David Lander get away with this?
That is
so
a hell of a
clearly
line.
an ad lib too. That has to be an ad lib. There's no way that's in the script.
Also, by the way, on the shot of him by the jukebox, I have to mention that extra is back on that escalator.
Yes, that extra that you're constantly pointing out. I also wanted to point out the family is having a very sad-looking birthday party in the background.
That was really depressing. I noticed that.
Yeah. Shout out to all these weird extras to get to at the end. Magusa sounds like spaghetti sauce. He does impress Bobby Bitts. Bobby Bitts decides to make a star out of him.
Yep. Yeah. I just don't. I understand they did for comedic value, but it was kind of stupid that they didn't think the logic would be he needs to hear the voice live, and so just put on a record and. Literally, all he has to do is to start singing to himself, and like that be the joke. That Carmine starts helping out around the restaurant, and he's singing about everything he's doing.
Oh, that'd be funny. There is the plates and cups. That would have been really, really, really hilarious. Oh goodness. That would be cute.
I also want to mention we have a very clear shot of the menu of the Cowboy Bills menu, so. Don't worry, we have other stuff we're going to talk about this episode, but I finally was able to get a bunch of the names of the items, the food items off the menu.
Yeah.
The ham and co cheese, the Frontier fries, Grunion rings, the TP taco, Rooster ribs, Pony espresso, Rattle shake, Coyote soda, Cactus cola, the Root Hoot Gibson, Yippity yogurt, Comanche cone, and hot peyote pie.
Hot peyote pie. Yeah, there are several good shots of the menu towards the end of this. There's something, we make our own dough. We make our own something or other dough. And that I will note that when we get to Councilman DeFazio, because it's in that. But it is a cute little menu filled with all kinds of goofy references. So yes, Carmine gets his thing. He gets his chance. And Laverne talks about dancing with the broom. That has given her a thing for tall, skinny, blonde guys.
Future Man, can you put up a picture of a tall, skinny blonde, please? Thank you.
Yes, very handsome. Nice ass.
That's getting kept in. That was too funny and too adorable. That's getting kept in.
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
staying on the thin ice about it.
Cue hippie Laverne, though. Cue hippie Laverne. Eco-friendly Laverne, anti-garbage and pollution.
Yes, in her tie-dye and with a little bandana.
I do like that she splashes red all over Carmine, and he's so elated at the news that he doesn't notice it for quite a while.
He does not care for a long time. He can just buy himself a new shirt and have his own limousine. So basically, he dreams about becoming a rich douchebag.
That was my note was like, you want to turn into the man, Carmine, the man.
The man.
My mother
So-
warned, don't count your chickens.
Yeah, she knew. She sensed. She understood. Oh Lord. And then, yeah, go ahead.
I also want to point out before we jump to the next scene that the flowers on the fridge are suddenly back. I noticed at some point earlier in the season, I brought this up, that the flowers had disappeared.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'll need to double check which one they disappeared on, but yeah, that was weird.
They also migrate to behind Laverne's bed at several points during the this couple of the episodes. So after Laverne is excited for Carmine, we establish her protesting plot. We go to the studio and everybody's dancing. Laverne's awkwardly dancing with a guy. And hi, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. Yeah, we have a Tracy Reiner spotting.
Tracy Reiner spotting. Okay, here's the great thing about this. David is clearly kidding around by blowing on her and trying to get her attention.
Yeah.
And she looks at him and gives him this look, and he kind of goes, "Oh, gee, me?" It's really nice and really funny. You can tell he's just being silly with her because he's known her for like centuries at this point. He has watched her go from an adolescent to a college-aged woman. She's been in college, I think, for a year at this point until she.
I think so. Close to it. But yeah. We'll come back to this because there's a line that he says later that made me see that scene in a different light, but we'll get there. But I did also want to mention, as I've brought up once again throughout season 8, new location. It's just another reused version of the apartment set. You can see that they're just throwing in the curtains they always use for talent shows, but it's the same brown floor.
Yep.
So that is definitely a thing. And they added a stage, but yeah, then the big dance, then the Carmine dance happens, and trying to put the energy into it. At least the costumes are solid this time around.
Yeah. Penny's trying her damnedest to make this look interesting, and she's clearly leading the dance. There is one dude who absolutely has no rhythm.
Oh my God, I saw that.
Yeah. He has no rhythm. He's kind of awkwardly standing there, moving his arms and his head. The camera tries to cut around him, but he is very prominently there.
Are we gonna feel like this is Crispin Glover in Friday the 13th Part 4?
But Crispin Glover had more joie de vivre in his little dance.
It's true. I mean, hell, even Joe Bob Briggs, when he imitated it, had more of that.
Yeah, truly.
That's right. So my note here is about how very boring staging and blocking. I appreciated that it had a lot of like coverage, but it doesn't feel like everything just it doesn't gel well for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the point I actually have in my notes. Honey, can we just go back and rewatch Hairspray again instead of watching this?
Oh, wow. Lots of awkward shots of the floor up into Eddie's crotch.
Yeah, the junk shot with my mom pointed out he looks like they're trying to make it look like Tom Jones.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. They already had him sing Tom Jones the season before, so hey, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to note that the Carmine is so awkward with these weird arm motions where it looks like he's trying to catch flies with a pair of chopsticks.
Yes, and then the weird like leg wiggle, which reminds me of Sean William Scott in The Rundown. It's like, you want a little thunder, a little lightning.
Oh god! And this is all clearly a reference, like a Watergate references, with the sponsor trying to control the content of the episode and the music charts by recording everything and playing it backwards.
Yeah, because that's when we cut away and cut to Mr. Knibble, the paranoiac.
Who was terrible, as we noted.
Oh.
We did not like his performance.
Yeah, that's going to get really sad in a minute.
Yeah, oh dear. Oh no, I feel really bad for him.
Okay, let's should we talk about him first before we thrash his performance later on?
Sure.
He was a longtime theater actor in the Rhode Island area during the 1960s, including he was actually in the world premiere of Years of the Locust, which I've heard of before. They may have played here in Portland. But in the late 70s, he pops up in TV shows, including as Father Donald Callahan in Salem's Lot.
Oh, no way! I don't even recognize him.
But yeah, he shows him in like an episode here and there, like Three Lou Grant's Bosom Buddies, episode of MASH, Two Little House on the Prairies, etc. Usual. After this, he has a continuous string of character actor TV appearances, Different Strokes, Cheers, Saint Elsewhere, and Alf. He pops up in Mr. Mom for a small role. And even in the around 93 or so, he got to see what was up with this ER show the kids were all talking about. He passed away at the age of 65 in 2001.
That's
So
bad.
so that's too bad. And it
Too
sounds
bad.
like he was very beloved by his community theater group. So well,
thinking
I mean,
about him.
don't get
Thinking
me
about
wrong.
him.
I'm still
Thinking
gonna
about
trash this performance because this performance is trash and not the fun type.
Yeah, it's not a good performance, but I'm glad he put on other good performances.
Yeah,
this
he got to be in
time.
other stuff. Yeah, I mean,
he got to be in other stuff, got to do other things.
anyways, so now we have the Great Sandwich Making Massacre.
Yes, we do. Well, Laverne is just cheese and fluff. That is something the boys would eat.
Yeah, what
That's
is
absolutely something
with
the
their
boys would eat.
what is with their terrible taste? And isn't there the bit earlier where she made other weird sandwiches and Carmine's like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
love these."
Yeah, that was what helped prove that Shirley was pregnant.
Right, that's it.
Yes.
Then we get the fan letters. Leslie kills the moment, by the way, and kill is in like good.
Oh,
She
yes.
nails it with the kid that they threw rocks at, and they don't
we
throw
just
rocks at him
ignore
anymore.
him.
We just ignore him completely. Isn't that
Oh
sweet?
yeah, we still did that. And this is also a very good hello one. I'm trying to keep garbage out of the neighborhood. Hello.
Yeah, that is like, mwah, that's a great one. There's a really good one, I think, in the next episode
Yes.
that I think is quite possibly my favorite of the season.
Okay.
Anyway, Rhonda, you're looking quite clavacious.
Clavacious is a great word. David is at his peak, and he is but he definitely pays a lot of dividends into me enjoying this a lot. He's really good in this episode. He's very smooth.
Yeah, I love he even pronounces merchandise practically the same way it's said in Spaceballs.
Yeah, my literal note is Spaceballs a flamethrower. When he's doing all these different things, I had Spaceballs a flamethrower down.
It is adorable. I have the multiple use doll with the Brillo pad hair,
Yes.
the Brillo hair.
That is adorable, and that is very merchandising. It's really enjoyable. I thought it was something else. And I loved all the little bits in here. Okay, we get another Phantom Lenny mention
Yes.
where he talks about how they make sandwiches. How they once tried to make a lot of sandwiches ahead of time so they'd have a lot of stuff to eat. But unfortunately, what happened was they started to move.
They start to move on you. Great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
start to move on you. They lose their soggy goodness.
Right. And then he throws the basketball over and Rhonda catches it and he goes, "Good hands." And not the first time I've heard that. And my mom response was, "Whoa." Very
Bless your mom. I love that. And I love that return to flirtiness between Squiggy and Rhonda. We haven't seen in a while.
we have not.
That was really fun. Also, by the way, that Brillo-haired Carmine scrubber doll is very clearly a Mego John Travolta doll that they from Welcome Back Carter that they are reusing.
Oh, that's cute.
That was very clearly that, and that was also might have been a reference. David often complained to the Raiders that they were giving him sweat hog lines, so might have been a in joke.
That's a possibility, yeah. Although I have to say that is pretty dark when you cut over to the corner of Laverne trying to warn Carmine, look at who you're getting involved with, and you cut back to Squiggy on his medium close up, and he's got the Ragusa Noosa.
The Ragusa Noosa. I can't believe they got away with that either. That too.
Yeah.
This is a return to Squiggy's inventor side that we haven't seen since Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was nice.
Yeah, and it's been a long, long time since that creative side of him has come out, and it was nice to see. I thought it was something else. Did make me laugh too.
Mm-hmm.
Squiggy. The fact that Laverne ended up getting stuck with sandwiches because 148 people decided to pick straws. It very much feels like a group project thing that would actually happen.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's just a nightmare. Poor Laverne.
And then there's the interjection that Bob Dylan is supposed to come to the protest, and then it suddenly cuts away with the music substitution.
What the hell is a smash cut? I literally have a note for this. Oh, what is that cut? I literally have a note for that.
That feels like a syndication edit to me. I'm not sure, unless it's like, because like I wonder if there's a throwaway line that's like, it's actually Bob Dylan's brother, or Dylan Bob is his name instead.
Yeah. I don't know, because that joke goes nowhere, that reference goes nowhere, and it drives me nuts.
Drives you crazy.
Nowhere.
On the road to Bob, it's paved with good intentions and bad movies.
Yeah, the times, they are changing.
That's also a reference to the fact I edited a movie called Road to Bob about 3 folks road tripping to Oregon through Oregon trying to make it to a Bob Dylan concert.
Okay, that's cool. I remember that. I think I remember that.
Yeah, that was the one I edited for
Yeah.
a certain person who will not be named because, hey, at the very least, what was great was people, instead of saying, oh, I love the movie, they always said, wow, you did a really good job on that edit. It was so smooth.
Like a baby's behind. Okay. So we get a clear musical substitution. There's Tracy in a brand new dress.
Yes, being very
dancing
cute.
away.
Yeah.
She looks adorable. I will say she is adorable in this episode, and she looks like she's having a good time.
Yep.
With her mom's work friends.
Exactly. But yeah, then everything, Jay Leno comes out and he says that's anybody who's anybody last week, and my note is fuck you, Jay Leno, because listen, we were not going to get through a Jay Leno episode without a fuck you, Jay Leno. I'm sorry. This guy.
Jay Leno, you screwed over Conan O'Brien. We do not forgive you in this dojo.
Oh, and not to mention that I've looked up old clips of his bits, and you end up realizing, wow, he
stole stuff?
He was an ass. He was such an ass. Anyway,
Wow.
So they do the Carmine again, and everything.
I've not watched his stand-up. I just know him as a talk show guy from my Goose.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched the stand-up. I just mean like his monologues. There are times where it's like it's pretty it's pretty rough.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, now I remember that.
Oh, think of the Monica Lewinsky era.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that. Yeah, the Monica era. That was terrible. He did tell some mean jokes. Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that.
But that being said, a new challenger appears, and they're interrupted by the man, Mr. Paranoid, Schizophrenic, Republican, right-wing fuck nugget.
All of a sudden, Satanic Panic. Out of the blue. We get a Satanic Panic turn. And it's like, oh gosh, I'm going to look this up. Satanic.
Contributing to the moral poison of our great society. Who died and made you the Wolfman, Jack?
Who died and made you the Wolfman, Jack? Is a great, great line. Okay, so apparently that this, I think it's kind of basically predates the Satanic Panic, since that's it. The Satanic Panic started around 1983, 1984, so this is actually right on time for that. So they probably might have been referencing that directly.
Yeah.
At this point.
I have a suspicion because with the Satanic Panic, you have a mixture, because the 80s have it in multiple forms. You have subliminal messages with television, with toys. You have and cartoons. You have the Dungeons and Dragons hysteria of the early to mid 1980s. You have the cult and ritual abuse of the late 1980s, and you have the music, brain rot, which then, as you brought up before, the PMRC comes in, and that the PMRC is sort of founded in 85. But its roots definitely start here. And so I think this is an interesting reference to the fact that there were definitely satanic panics of the 60s as well. The whole moral fibers of society are being, destroyed and desiccated by this new rock and roll and by music and things like that. And how, despite by 1965, 66, rock and roll being an American institution, basically, and an American export for that matter, but that it was still considered something evil. And that becomes the big frustration with this episode, is that, as you're saying, they made this during the time when they could have been making commentary about what was happening for real, what was happening in the 80s. Do the MASH thing. You're talking about the Vietnam War by talking about the Korean War.
Exactly. And that is exactly what they used MASH for, to critique it. And that is ultimately where the kind of direction they're trying to go in. And they could have gone into a payola direction, which would have been interesting and actually more timely if you really think about it.
I think, that's a good point.
Because imagine Squiggy paying off Bobby Bitts to play the record.
Yeah.
And the deep hot water that would have gotten it in, you would have gotten the same result, because Carmine would have felt shaken in his talons. There would have been conflict, and Squiggy would have generally behaved the same way, sadly, at this point in canon.
Yeah.
I did get some good laughs out of it. It's got a good beat, and you can dance to it, because we all know we're parodying here. We all know who we're parodying here. Revolution, Comrade, Khrushchev.
Yes, there. Kremlin, overthrow democracy, Joseph Stalin. You're crazy, pal. Now, wait a minute. Did I hear Betty? I did hear Betty Crocker. Bolshevik.
I was going to say that last line. Oh, that was funny. At least this is funny. It has done the rare task of making me laugh this late in the season.
Yep.
I love Squiggy wanting to keep the microphone.
Yes. So the boycott of the Un-American Dance Party, he's nuts. Bobby Bits throws him under the bus, and they talk about the young culture. I want to mention this. They're vulnerable, easily swayed, and that's when Squiggy says, "Not the 16-year-old I was talking to."
Our final pedo squig joke of the series.
Thank God.
Let's wave goodbye to this trope forever. Bye, trope. We didn't enjoy you.
So,
and the thing is that canon also, in episodes like Feminine Mistake proved this stuff because the boys were horrified. The idea that they were trying to get Girl Scouts to take their clothing off. No, we want big women with big beanies. They're den mothers and they're so prepared.
But yeah, then Bobby Bits is gonna play America the Beautiful instead, because he's gonna get right on down there and just get himself a couple licks off that boot.
Good. He is basically making that his dinner. He is chowing pretty hard on it. So does this make Carmine a one-hit wonder? Was he enough of a hit over a single week span or a single 2-week span to make that worthwhile? Is my big question.
I don't think they give us enough information for that.
I know. That's what I'm really curious about. And my other question is, I am shocked that, I know why they don't have Squiggy turn into this hit and kind of make it a big deal. Because you had stuff happening in the 70s and the 60s with similar one-hit wonders dealing with similar controversy who managed to get big hits and big bucks out of this. I'm going to specifically bring up the Bowie's Timothy. I don't know if any of you have heard of Timothy. A lot of my knowledge of this comes from Todd in the Shadows episode on this song. Shout out to Todd in the Shadows. They were a band that had a song from Rupert Holmes, who did the Pina Colada song and had a big hit on his own with that. But he wrote this song that was inspired to write while listening to the Galloping Gourmet talking about food and cooking. And he also heard about this mining disaster. And he said that it sounded like a recipe when he was writing down about it. It sounds like a recipe. So that led him to write a story very loosely based on an actual mining disaster about a miner who is trapped down in the bowels of a mine after a collapse with two of his comrades. And he and his comrade kill and eat Timothy. And so it's a cannibalism song. It caused a huge controversy. When Rupert Holmes was questioned about it at the time, he just lied and said Timothy was a mule.
That's amazing.
And that's how you do it. That's how you did. That's what they should have had Carmine do.
Yep.
And that would have better set up the spin-off that he eventually is going to try to attempt in 2 episodes.
Right.
Yeah. Because they made it this disgusting, horrifying cannibal song that started to get banned from radio stations and banned from American Bandstand kind of places, though not American Bandstand itself. The band turned into that publicity and it became a huge hit. Unfortunately, there was nowhere else for them to go after having a big hit about cannibalism. So, ultimately, they could have done something interesting like that, is my point. They could have, taken this publicity and made it even bigger.
Yeah,
Well, listen to the song, this nasty, forbidden song, kids. Come on, we're selling it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they just smash all the records, and it makes no sense.
Oh, yeah, no, it's dumb. It's stupid. It's product.
It's very dumb. Yeah. The ending here is what really drags it down, where they decide just to meekly accept this and walk away with their tails between their legs and just smash all the Carmine records.
Well, we are continuing to see throughout this season a lot of just settle for what you got, kids. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Messaging.
Yeah.
It's very 1980s.
Yeah, which is kind of very sad in a way because we get this really fantastic episode for Carmine. Well, not fantastic quality-wise.
The idea and how close it gets to it is very fantastic because it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way.
He gets to dream big. Gets to dream big and have a big dream. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he stopped settling for what he was getting in California. So to have this kind of message where, we should just walk away with our tail between our legs and not fight this, because Bobby Bits is apparently Jesus Christ at some level, as if he controls all of radio, and he's not Wolfman Jack, as Squiggy Quasi points out. So I don't know why they just accept this and don't try to get some publicity running.
Yeah, it's
So,
fucking stupid.
Aside from the fact that we're at the end of the episode, we're running out of time, we need to do it.
Right.
So,
Anyway, can I also mention Knibble's last line? Because I was shocked at how casually racist this was. You know which one I'm bringing up.
Go for it.
I'm going to read the phone book backwards. I was always suspicious of those yellow pages.
Oh, God, I'm... They've been trying to get anti-Asian humor in this season for the full season.
Yeah.
And they finally did it. And ew.
Yep. Ew, gross, disgusting, and whoever's responsible for it, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah. I am very glad, ultimately, that joke that they tried to get into Death Row didn't make it in.
Yep.
Death Row was bad enough without it.
See, at least the thing about this joke is that it's at the expense of a racist. That's at least the only upside. Because I think I like the idea of a racist fearmonger being suspicious. Because, I mean, we live in the day, we now live in the days of Twitter. We know people that are this fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we've seen them. And some of them are not just trolls, But yeah, it's still... Because of the fact he gets away with it makes it bad to me. I don't like that this is this needs to be I fought the law. Like if you're doing I fought the law in the law one, you gotta have some teeth. You gotta have some grit. You gotta get some studs in your jacket. Get yourself some fucking fuzz pedals. Get some fucking steel-toed boots, and rage against the machine, man.
There are three problems. There are three narrative pathways they could have or should have taken instead of this. Pathway 1 is the one I mentioned, using this as a springboard into the spinoff. Number 2 is that they should have had Carmine become really obnoxious in his fame, and he becomes unbearable. So this is a really good comeuppance for him. That takes him out and brings him back to his roots and making him realize, I was a jerk to my friends, or I was a jerk to my colleagues, I shouldn't have done this. That would have made this downer ending make more sense. And option 3 was that, they lean into it, and they lean into it until the point where Carmine is recording songs that he's uncomfortable with. Like real actual songs with either actual messages put in it backwards, or actually recording songs that encourage like terrible things to occur, like a Timothy level song.
Right. Or just to add on to that idea, he works with a guy named Charlie.
Oh my gosh. Charlie. Yeah, all of those things are better ideas than the kind of like wet fart of an ending.
Yeah.
Because the ending really kind of is like a wet fart of a way to end the whole episode. It's like they can't let Carmine completely have this kind of success, because then he's not blue collar. But since we're at the end of this show and we're trying to craft a spin-off for him, why not let him have the success? So it's just like, it reminds me of like a Milwaukee episode where it wouldn't have hurt to have the girls get an occasional victory.
Yeah.
In season 3. So yeah. So Carmine as the 5th chipmunk, which made me laugh, because Squiggy is including Dave in this chipmunks.
I forgot about that. It was 5. I thought he said 4th. I think you're right though. That is great.
He said 5th. He says 5th. That's a really great one. That's really fun.
And then Squiggy being extra pervy and keeping the fan mail to fap off too.
Yeah, I actually directly said Squiggy was using Carmine's fan letters as jerk-off material. That's my actual line, my actual quote here.
The right amount of perfume. That's a line I am amazed David got, because David clearly added that, and I'm amazed he got away with it.
Yeah. I think he was just trying to crack up Eddie and Penny at this point.
I think so.
Sometimes it would work and sometimes it would not. So Rhonda has actually let Laverne ride home coated in garbage in her car. Boy, Rhonda's changed over the past couple episodes.
I forgot about the detail, though. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. She's definitely become more altruistic, because, man, that she does not seem like the kind of woman who would do that, so to speak.
She's also had a few years to see how the times they are changing.
Indeed. The times they are changing. Of course. And then we do not get any payoff for the Dylan thing. I love that, though, that when Laverne comes through the door, Squiggy takes a look at her and says, Laverne, you look absolutely enchanting.
Yeah, don't tell me. You got invited to the Garbage Men's Ball. I've been trying to get into that thing for months.
I take it you weren't named Queen of the Ball.
And she has to tell the
and
story of the usual protests, we covered a lot of
Yeah.
this, but yeah, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
We sat, they came.
Yeah.
They dumped, we stink.
Yeah. And Squiggy actually gets nauseated by the stink of them.
Yeah.
Stink of her for what? That's like, which is shocking because it's Squig.
No. Squig leaves because he says a slight case of the vapors coming on. I must go slap on my pajamas, slip my head into a cold hamper, which I think is either cold is his head or his hand. And I was wondering if he was doing the cold hand to numb the senses thing.
I think it was head. I think he slipped his head into a cold hamper.
Ugh.
Oh, Andrew.
Man, this is anyway. So when it comes to this whole last conversation with Laverne, I felt it was boring. Last week America was doing the Carmine. This week I'm over the hill. Makes you feel any better, Carmine? You're great at getting out stubborn stains. That's like the one good line.
Yeah, I know. And then all of a sudden it starts to get bizarrely romantic. That means you saved the last Carmine for me.
Yeah,
it's like it gets romantic kind of out of nowhere. They start flirting. Yeah, and then they dance the Carmine together.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
And then you get a tag scene where they smash the records and they absolutely murder that record stash. And then the last little bit is the O Sole Mio joke. It only works because I love Leslie doing the mandolin noise that she's doing the mandolin air guitar style. Yeah. It's very cute.
Yeah, that makes Carmine look stupid because at the very least they could send all that stuff to friends in Milwaukee for Christmas gifts. At the very least he could keep it one as a souvenir of his time.
But no, we have to set up jokes. We have to be stupid. That's what we got to do.
Carmine is dead. Long live the Carmine.
God. Okay, so.
Okay, yes.
All right. Returning chin with a face attached to it, Jay Leno previously showed up as Joey Mitchell in season 4's Feminine Mistake. He, by this point, popped up in a few other shows, including a few episodes, actually one episode of Alice. Now up ahead of him, he has the 80s cult classic Collision Course with fellow Marshallverse alum Pat Morita, and then his illustrious and infamous career as host of The Tonight Show through the 90s and aughts, and now more recently, just a lot of voice acting and playing himself. For the behind-the-camera notes, we have easily the saddest part of this episode, which is the tale of Jay Grossman. He was an up-and-coming comedy writer. He was actually a friend of Bruce Valanche at the time, and someone who got his start writing skits and bits for game shows in the 70s. People apparently really liked him and were kind of gunning for him. He was on the right track after a string of Love Boat episodes and probably had a lot more in him. And then on New Year's Day, 1986, he died from AIDS.
Oh, it's awful. Terrible.
He was young. He was 30s.
That's terrible. Oh, it's terrible. AIDS is terrible. AIDS, so much damage to a whole generation of artists, and it's a tragedy.
Yep. Yeah, even the guy who played Carl in Die Hard died of complications of AIDS-related illnesses in 93, I think.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
So that covers behind and in front of the camera, because as I've said, I'm not going to be doing Turbovic notes until we get to the end, really. But I will say, it is very interesting to have, of all things for me not to have notes on, it's the director of 36 goddamn fucking episodes of the show. 36 episodes. He's got 2 more after this.
So much. Oh my God. So much work.
Anyway, great, now I'm depressed. Sorry about that. So I guess, yeah, I mean, I am frustrated by this episode for a lot of reasons I've discussed. I think the alternative to make this a lot stronger, as mentioned, is to really just jump in whole hog into talking about the era of censorship that was starting to happen in the 80s. And the catch is I do not see a Marshall-directed or produced show doing that at this time. Because one of the things I've even have encountered or witnessed from people who worked on this show over time is that when it comes to progressive politics and it comes to progress, it is in stages. And unfortunately, as the 80s come in and you really feel the compression of, let's squeeze out the 70s, let's squeeze out the openness, let's get back to something that's stable, business, capitalism, family values, Christianity, all that sort of stuff. It becomes a time in which suppression is not just good business sense, but it's something that helps give people a sense of stability that they had really been lacking for the better part of 20 years. And so I understand that, but what is left here instead is not even a fun adventure. I would not even say there are hijinks that ensue here. So you either have to take it further into parody, where like have a chase scene with them in car rigs with rear projected car shots of them racing to get the record to play on a radio station and trying to outrun Knibble. Like, get a scene of Knibble being ousted as a fraud at the very end, so that even though he's, you know, he's a has-been, he's considered a has-been, and make that the joke that Carmine is successful one week and then a failure the next, and it has been the following. That by the time he wants to come back, it's all done and over. And Knibble's, you know, even though his nemesis is gone, he can't make it back in. Or just at the very least, just have something to say. Like, don't bring this into the room if you have nothing to say.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
The problem with the episode is very simple in that they do not have the courage, like, it's like they didn't have the courage to comment on Martin Luther King Jr. and JFK, and only glancingly reference the Vietnam War. So it is that they don't have the courage to, you know, take apart Satanic Panic and take apart environmental issues.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if we had gone another season, we would have gotten deeper in the hippie movement. It's quite possible we would have. But, you know, either way, it's not the show at its best. I guess we're ranking. Is this a ranking? Yes, we're ranking. For me, I'm going to go with I guess a 5.6. This isn't the worst episode of the season. It's got some enjoyable jokes. Carmine is actually a catchy song. But, you know, it's way too late for us to have a Carmine Ragusa dance craze. The issues aren't directly addressed. There's no character movement at this late stage in canon. There should have been some kind of forethought happening. So yeah, that's where I'm going. So I'm
gonna go with like a 3.5.
Yeah, that's okay. That's about right.
Yeah.
I might actually reduce mine to 4.5.
Yeah, 4 feels fair. 5 feels a bit high for the.
Yeah, but I think it's 4.5. If I really think about it, it's 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be worse. We have seen worse.
It could be worse. We have seen worse.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's
Could be better.
Yeah. It's again one of those things that there's jokes and pieces and delivery I would love to rescue from this episode and put into a better story.
Yeah.
And I hate to razz on the work of a writer who, you know, I don't know if it was just heavily rewritten or something, but, you know, who did tragically pass away, you know, not even 4 years later, you know, but it's just, this I think is very emblematic of season 8 though, because it's not always rancid. There's a few moments in this that I found to be particularly not great, but there is a lingering stink of mediocrity. And that's why I wonder how much of that is more for the production side of things and from the schedule of just trying to get episodes done to meet the the contractual agreement with ABC.
Possibly. It's quite possible because by now everyone was done.
Yeah.
A lot of my enjoyment of this episode comes from the performances. I will say that, because that's what's really holding it together. That's what's really holding this together.
Anyway, though. All right. So I guess we'll that's all I got for today. So I guess we'll quickly.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for Night After Night. And if you would like to know more, you can find us at Night After Night PC on Twitter or Night After Night Pod on Facebook, WordPress, Tumblr, you know, wherever all these cool things can be found. Patreon, even. You could throw us some bucks. That'd be nice. But anywho, what do we have next? I feel like I'm going to get something in the mail about voting. What's going on?
Frank runs for his seat on the Burbank City Council when Cowboy Wills is threatened with demolition for a new office project. Can DeFazio make it in politics? This is Councilman DeFazio.
It seems like he might be a good candidate, but, you know, what they say, all the president's men can't put him back together again. And, I don't know. But, you know, we'll see what we can do if we, you know, record our conversation next time and get a bit of a parallaxing view upon this and, you know, maybe just experience a little bit of... Especially running out of political thrillers to reference, so fuck it.
Beware of watery gates. Bye, y'all, and for heaven's sakes, if you're going to do the Carmine, make sure to clear out those rugs and get a bare floor going. Bye, y'all.
To the Carmine.